I've been alone for a while now. Without any purpose, just hiding.
It's in the past, but Cal, you have to make a choice to move on.
Eventually, you gotta move on and live your life. Find your destiny.
Failure's not the end, my friend.
For years, the hero's journey has become a pattern most commonly used in storytelling. Many modern and classic stories we know and love today have been heavily influenced by it, thanks to Joseph Campbell. For those who aren't familiar with this chart, it's when the hero leaves their ordinary world behind, is called out to adventure whether they want to or not. They overcome many trials that teach them lessons, along with their mentors to guide them on how to reach those goals in order to return home with the elixir. There's more to it than just a simple 1, 2, 3 step and you're done. That form of storytelling, however, has fizzled out over the last decade. That is, until the amazing team at Respawn Entertainment decided to create a little Star Wars game. At the time, it was a weird experience for me to be a Star Wars fan. I realized that I was on the verge of falling out of the fandom. Between the sequels disappointing me and the Clone Wars finally concluding, I was unsure what the future of the franchise was going to look like, and if it was going to be worth staying in it anymore. However, one piece of content caught my attention almost immediately when Jedi Fallen Order dropped on November 15th, 2019. Going in, I had big expectations since this was the first single-player game in 11 years since The Force Unleashed. Many questions wrapped around my head, but one thought kept playing over and over again. This game was either going to grow or break my love for Star Wars. As I sat down on my couch and loaded up the game, tuning out the world, I entered back into the realm of this franchise once more. The story begins when we're introduced to Cal Kestis, a Jedi Padawan who's been in hiding for the last 5 years after surviving the events of Order 66. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be long until he's discovered again. And when he is, it's an intimidating escape for the player, as well as Cal. Not only is the Empire after us, but this is how we learn the basic skills of how to fight back against them. What really caught my attention, however, was seeing that this was more than just another typical Jedi game. It was a full deep dive exploration on trauma. Considering the time frame we're in, the Jedi are all exterminated. We see the perspective of what it's like to be a Jedi in hiding while living in a dictatorship under the Empire's height of power and control over the galaxy. It's a never-ending nightmare for Cal, and it's only just the beginning.
What Jedi gave their life so that you might live?
In his most desperate hour, Cal is rescued by another former Jedi Master and the captain of the Mantis ship, Grease Dritus. With their help and support, Cere makes Cal an offer to help her find a holocron her master left behind, filled with Force-sensitive children names across the galaxy to restore the Jedi Order. It's no simple task, but Cal doesn't have any other option to fall back upon, especially now that the Empire knows he's alive and will stop at nothing to bring him in or terminate his life. That also means he'll have to dig deep within the Force little by little and overcome his past trauma that he's bottled up over the last 5 years. As we land on Bogano, we learn more mechanics like the importance of meditation, puzzle solving, and combat against other enemies. Even a demented frog called Ogdo Bogdo.
Watch out, watch out, watch out!
Cal won't go into this discovery alone, however, as we are introduced to a new little friend, BD-1, the best droid since the invention of Chicky Nuggies. BD-1 is our companion and healer, both figuratively and physically healing Cal with stims, With a new opportunity bestowed upon him, Cal accepts Cere's offer to discover the holocron and walk in her former master's footsteps Eno Cordova has left for us to find it. Our first clue starts on the planet Zepho. Environmental storytelling is evident here. Thanks to Cal's special psychometry ability, we have a clear idea of what happened in the past of the people who lived on this planet, but also the ancient civilization of the Zephonian species. The planets we've discovered thus far are put into perspective when we realize Cal and the crew are caught in the middle. In order for Cal to move forward in his quest, he must learn about the past in order to rebuild a better future, while gaining a new perspective in the present. As he rebuilds his connection to the Force, memories of his past trauma slowly come back to haunt him. Cere shares her own experiences with Cal in order to help him in the present, but not everything. For now, it's time to move forward in the quest, which leads us to Kashyyyk. For the first time, Cal briefly becomes a freedom fighter by aiding the Wookiees in order to find Chieftain Tarful. He's forced to place his faith in the partisans, while they place their faith back in him. Although it's a small victory, Cal and the crew don't find Tarful, which means it's back to Zepho. Just when Cal's trust is about to build up, it quickly diminishes when he faces an unexpected truth.
I'm surprised she didn't tell you. Sarah was never good at keeping secrets.
And you know her so well, huh?
She betrayed me.
Trilla.
In the flesh.
The second sister's identity is a twist, throwing Cal off guard and vulnerable. Although he likes to think he's level-headed, she knows exactly how to pull every victim into the palm of her hands. Trilla is Cal's foil. Consumed with pain and fear, she has fallen to the dark side, inflicting the same pain to others, feeding off their own suffering the same way she did, particularly Cal's. If he slips or falls into that same mindset, then he's not far off from the path to the dark side as well. Her former master Cere betraying the one person she swore to protect is alive, but at a cost. Conflicted whether to trust Cere and Grease only worsens as Cal falls into another trap due to Grease's reckless gambling. His trust is on the line, and Cere's failures are to blame for it. Grease takes responsibility for his actions and apologizes to him, which is not easy for anyone to do. He shows his human side, not literally, but how flawed human beings can be, and not everybody is perfect. Due to the passing of his grandmother, he felt lost and made a lot of mistakes in his life, but after finding Cal and Cere, he found purpose in his life again. Purpose to make better change, by building a bridge of trust and empathy. Grease settles the tide for now, but Cal isn't ready yet to let Cere back in just yet. As he ventures out back to Kashyyyk, a new perspective is gained. Through a selfless act of healing the Shio bird and trusting Mari to track Tarful down, he sees the bigger picture of this majestic planet like never before. No matter how much tyranny and devastation the Empire causes, there's still so much they haven't touched. There's still hope for Kashyyyk. But one final battle here must conclude as we face the Ninth Sister. While it's a huge victory, it's also a troubling reminder that we have faced yet another fallen Jedi from the Order. The Inquisitor's fate also awaits any other Jedi fugitive that is also hiding. It almost became Cere's, but Cal refuses to listen and sympathize, nor share his vulnerability back, due to her glossing over the truth about Trilla. Unfortunately for him, Cal is about to get the rudest awakening of all, once we travel to Dathomir. Dathomir is a symbol of the embodiment from other planets that were threatened by the same evil to destroy it. Although Dathomir is at the point of no return, the third and final Zepho tomb gives a dark aura that you can almost feel through the screen. Kujet, conniving manipulator who thrived on fear and power from his servants, ultimately became his demise. The temple also thrives on Cal's greatest fear he's buried deep inside. the day he failed his master, Order 66. It's very rare to replicate the same heart-wrenching feeling we all got after watching Revenge of the Sith for the first time. By having Anakin's betrayal theme play and forcing us to play through it with Cal, we witnessed his hope and world change in the most brutal way. It's not his fault his master died, but how is he supposed to convince himself of that? As the fears and guilt eat away at Cal, he finally snaps, becoming the same vulnerable kid he once was all those years ago. Just when things couldn't get even more complicated, Taron Malicos reveals himself for what he is. Another fallen Jedi who caved into the dark side. But he did have a point. The Jedi Order was flawed. Dark times call for desperate measures in his eyes, but that's not what Cal wants. The truth of the matter is things need to change. But how? Just like every other Jedi, Cal must rebuild his lightsaber and face another test. Ilum was by far my favorite moment in Fallen Order. As we traverse through the snowy caverns and see the past of other Force-sensitive users, it's a chilling reminder of the rough road that lies ahead, but also a reminder of the past, that the era of the Jedi and their teachings are nothing more but a memory. This was a rite of passage for every Jedi, and for Cal to go through it again is a painful reminder of what he once had is now lost. Cal still has a single thread of hope as he reaches his Kyber crystal, a possible turning point that's been handed to him. But it's not. It's his lowest point yet. It's his failure.
No. Failure is not the end. It is a necessary part of the path. Hope will always survive in those who continue to fight.
However, it's a powerful reminder to keep going. BD1 inspires Cal to push forward and make the hardest decision of all, trusting himself. To have faith in his gifts, his intuition, strength, and his ability to forgive also leads to the double-edged sword. Cal is far from perfect. Failure will always be inevitable, regardless of what you go through. But that's because it's part of the journey. With two different perspectives, from Cere and Jaro to Paul, Cal makes the ultimate weapon. With a new regained confidence, we fly through Ilum, ready to face whatever threat stands in Cal's and the player's way. Cal finally understands the truth, and it becomes clear about the Jedi. They fell long before the Purge, due to their obsession with purity, ignorance, blinding them into thinking the Sith will never return, and turning their backs on the past. Cal is the first Jedi to finally understand the balance, a bridge between the order of the old and the new future. When he returns to Dathomir, he's no longer afraid. Instead, he faces his fears and gains enough confidence to stand up to Taron Malicos, with the help of Night Sister Merrin. Together, they bond over their past experiences. Merrin has suffered just as much trauma as Cal has, but she sees a path forward by joining him. In the past, a Jedi and Night Sister teaming up would be considered taboo, but times are changing, and it's time to adapt with the change. And it starts by helping others and reaching out. With the Astrium in hand, Cal and the crew are finally able to open the Zepho Vault on Bogano. A new generation of Jedi may be enough to turn the tide, but Cal sees an unforgiving future if he proceeds on his path to reveal the list of Force-sensitive children. He's not only passing down the same pain he endured, but the trauma that may follow along with it. It wouldn't be long until the Empire discovers Cal and his new Padawan learners, and the results would be catastrophic. The future of those children now rests in the Mantis crew's hands. One final battle remains, and their next destination is far from anything they've ever encountered before. Cere must go back to face her biggest fears, but she won't be alone. Everything has led up to this. With the new skills we've learned, we can face the Imperial forces head-on. The place where the Empire broke Cere and Trilla, Fortress Inquisitorius. If Cal is able to resist the dark side, it starts with Trilla, the light side versus the dark. While we may see her at first as a typical villain, she's more than that. Trilla is a victim of her trauma. The decisions she made reflected on the pain and suffering she endured all those years after the Purge, and allowed it to consume her. Even for a moment, while she may see the light after being defeated, the repercussions, unfortunately, become her demise by none other than the ultimate fallen Jedi, Darth Vader. Although Trilla was lost, Cal and Cere must make a choice, to surrender or fight back. Cal refuses to give Vader the holocron, and while Cere is hesitant to fight, she makes the choice to do so, and both barely survive as they escape. Although Cal is wounded, he lives to fight another day. Now with the holocron in the right hands, their goal is finally complete. We returned with the elixir, but how come it doesn't feel right when we do claim it? After everything the crew have encountered during their journey is put into perspective, especially when we look back on the Zeffo species. They were powerful Force users, much like the Jedi who succumbed to corruption the more powerful they got. Eventually, the Zeffo also fell long before their own empire, forcing the remaining few who refused the temptations to flee to the outer regions and build a new future. Cal makes a choice to prevent history from repeating itself. He destroys the holocron. It's a strong reminder that there's never a simple answer to solve all of the world's problems, but instead, to trust the process and do what you can in life to make real, positive change. You have to trust the very will of the Force itself. Survivors, coming together for a mutual purpose, knowing that one day, just maybe, the tides will change for the greater good. Jedi Fallen Order is one of the most amazing stories ever told in Star Wars history. It came out at a time where I felt like failure was the end-all in life, but it's far from it. In fact, Cal Kestis and the Mantis crew's story told us many lessons, which is why it gravitated towards such a big audience. It told a human story. In spite of Cal's failures and his flaws, he looked at them not as weakness, but as motivation, by turning it into power. It's a choice we all have when we wake up each and every single day. The choice to keep fighting, which is what makes us who we are. Needless to say, it absolutely exceeded my expectations for future Star Wars storytelling, and it set the standards pretty high. It paved the way for many things, but it shined a light on hope, genuine hope, the same kind of hope that Star Wars is all about, and the messages they convey in their storytelling. And I felt so deeply connected to these characters throughout their journey over the course of the game. Very rarely do stories get me super emotional and as invested as Jedi Fallen Order did, which is why it's my favorite one told yet.